in the hard light, land of the brave where the bullets don't lie. We fought for our freedom with guns by our side. Red, white, and blue, our southern pride. Raise the flag high, let freedom ring from the rolling mountains to the flatlands. We sing, no one can take our rights. Our Second Amendment will defend our land. With every bullet we stand. We were born in the USA, land of the free, with guns in our hands. We'll forever be Southern blood runs deep through our veins. We'll stand tall for America till the end of our days.
Well, hi there. I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. Oh, tonight we've got a few fun things going on. A little bit of bad news to start off with, but generally overall, a couple of really interesting decisions, a couple of really interesting legal cases that have sort of sorting their way through the court system, and I'm going to talk about what they mean, not only for the individuals in those particular jurisdictions, but how this can play out as possibly a couple of really big wins for us in the long term nationwide. First off, though, we have to give a big shout out to all the fine freedom-loving patriots in the great state of Colorado who have been in a battle for the last at least 2 weeks trying to deal with the anti-gun forces there. There has been a bill or series of proposed bills in Colorado that they have been fighting, and they have been doing the work. At one point, they had 200-something people lined up to testify against these crazy restrictions they're trying to enact in Colorado. And you just got to give them credit. They did everything they could. We talked to a couple of people from Rocky Mountain gun owners in the back channels. You know, they're doing everything possible to try to stop more draconian efforts in Colorado. Because as we all know, gun control laws always work. They always make us safe. Yeah. Actually, truth is, gun control laws try to convince the general population to give away a little bit of freedom and we'll give you safety in return. And when it doesn't work, then they ask you to give a little bit more freedom and we'll give you safety then. Doesn't work. And you give away a little more freedom. Let's face it, some of the cities and states with the most draconian gun laws have some of the craziest homicide rates. So if gun laws worked, why are New York and Chicago not the safest cities in the world? Oh, wait, they don't work. Now, of course, you could look at Europe. We don't have guns there. And so, well, it shows how safe everybody is until they get behind the wheel of a car or do the stabby thing. It doesn't seem to work. You know, we cannot bargain for safety. And if you're willing to trade safety for liberty, you'll end up with neither. So, just saying, they tried it, they've gone through, it has been epically failed every time, everywhere. But the original plan in Colorado, they were trying to restrict all firearms with removable or detachable magazines. What is detachable magazine? Yeah. They're trying to restrict the sale, transfer, or gift of any firearm that has a removable or detachable magazine. They're not calling it an assault weapons ban. No, it goes far beyond that. If it's got a removable or detachable magazine, you can't buy it, can't sell it, can't swap it, can't give it. The only way you can sell it is if you're selling it either to a licensed dealer or to someone outside the state. So yeah, Colorado gun owners, they're trying to really do a number on you guys. Well, that was the first proposal. And they forced and got it stopped. They then came up and said, okay, we've got a new idea. We're going to come up and say, well, you can have some of these things, but you have to have a hunting license, which has to be paid for and issued by the state, and take a special 4-hour safety course run by the state. Or if you don't have a hunting license, you have to take a special 12-hour safety course, again run by the state. Now, I don't know the cost on those courses. I don't know whether they're going to make them free or whether they're going to make them cost prohibitive. But I do think that if and when this gets to the SCOTUS, which it may well go to the SCOTUS, it might not work out too well for them. Why? Well, let's think about this. Name another constitutional right that you have to pay for a permit for. Yeah, probably not really a winning idea. If we told you that in order to vote, you have to take a 12-hour civics class that you have to pay for, and if you can't afford to pay the government for your civics class, you have no right to vote. Let's say your right to free speech. We say, well, you have the right to free speech, but you have to take a 4-hour class and you have to pay for it, and then we'll give you that right. Yeah. I don't see this as actually surviving a long-term challenge. I see it being as the, same olds, the commie mommies, actually in this case, Bloomberg, trying to push gun control, gun control, gun control. The interesting thing is the proposed bills were written by Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg. Yeah. Wasn't he the one who's New York mayor? Yeah. Why is he effing A and effing O around in Colorado? Because any state that he can go to try to take freedom away from the citizens, he's good for it. Remember, he's the one who's going to end obesity by getting rid of large sodas up in the city of New York. Yeah, because after all, you shouldn't be able to choose what size drink you get. Yeah. People like him, again, you keep tracing back. Every time you turn around, you see Bloomberg's behind it, or, every town for gun safety, or the Gabby Giffords bunch. It's the same thing. Give away a little bit of freedom and we'll promise you safety, and it will never work. But Colorado is apparently they've held it off really, really well. It looks like one of the plans passed this morning. Whether or not it will be signed into law or not, I don't know. For more information on this, you can check out Ava Flanell on Twitter. She's a really good follow, or Alicia Garcia at Boomstick Babe on Twitter. Both of them, they're really good. You can check out Rocky Mountain Gun Owners on Twitter. They have been doing the work, boots on the ground, at the Capitol, raising Cain, bringing people to testify. And unfortunately, it looks like, although they held them off for a while, it looks like as of this morning, at least one of these is going to be passed into law. And whether or not Governor Jared Polis signs it remains to be seen. The interesting thing is, this is the same governor who said that, oh no, he's not going to do anything whatsoever to assist Tom Holman with Custom Border Patrol trying to do anything about any of the illegals in Colorado. No, they're a sanctuary state. So if you're in the country illegally, they don't want to mess with you. If you're a law-abiding gun owner, well, you need to go take the course and pay for it. Colorado, folks, there's a reason why people are moving out of there. Let's face it, Colorado is home to none other than the legend himself, Andrew Branca, law of self-defense. He, his wife, and his business are all going to be moving very soon. I've been in contact with him, talked to him about it. So, yeah, what's happening? The good law-abiding citizens are leaving, and you'll be left with nothing but, well, look at it this way. There's only a few apartment complexes that have been taken over by TDA out there. Yeah. And we think this is normalcy. Colorado, folks, I'm sorry. Wish you the best of luck. May you find another wonderful free state to move to. And we'll see what happens to Colorado in a few years. My uncle used to live out there near Denver. He's since passed on years ago, but I can guarantee you he is spinning in his grave to see his beautiful mountain homeland turned into this communist utopia. But there's our first one. Now, do have a little good news for you. You gotta sort of get the black pill out first, but yeah, a little bit of good news. Chicago has an interesting case. This one's been dragging through the courts since 2017. A young lady by the name, we'll just call her Ms. Brown, was in a domestic violence situation. She actually owned a rifle, and she used her rifle to defend herself. She didn't actually discharge it. How they found no evidence she discharged it, but she did either grab it or aim it at someone or something else. And when law enforcement got there, they found out that she hadn't shot anybody, hadn't killed anybody, had nothing really that bad. Okay. So what happens? Well, it turned out that Ms. Brown did not have a valid FOID card. Now, an FOID card is something that's been required in Illinois since about 1967, a firearm owner's identification card. Basically, you have to go through a background check and get the little ID card before you can then go purchase a firearm and go through the standard NICS background check that we all go through. You have to have a valid FOID card to own a firearm. This is not a carry permit or a license to carry or anything like that. No. This is in order to have a firearm in the comfort of your own home, you need to have a government issued ID card, which you've paid for, $10, I believe. Well, guess what? She was charged with having a firearm without the special government permission slip. Her attorneys fought this and fought this and fought this. And again, it's been going through the courts since 2017. They actually got a win this week at the state level court, whereby the decision basically came out and said that the $10 fee was the equivalent of an illegal poll tax. You cannot charge somebody to exercise a constitutional right. Okay. And that in the text, history, and tradition concept of it, you can't have a requirement to have a permit because there was no such thing back in the signing of the Second Amendment when they passed the Bill of Rights. So she won. Now, the state is likely to appeal it. Now, the question is, how far will they appeal it? I mean, right now, they're trying to do their best to appeal it. If this gets out of the state court system and makes it into the federal court system, which it could well, what would happen? Well, any other state that requires you to have a permit or something prior to purchasing, see Colorado above, see Maryland, yeah. What could happen? If the Constitution, if it was ruled at the Supreme Court or at a federal level to be unconstitutional, how many states could lose their permission slip requirements? Remember, you can't charge a poll tax. You can't say, oh, we need to give $10 to be able to vote. And you need to give $10 to have a Second Amendment right. So, yeah, definitely interesting on that one. This could, it's funny because the question pretty much lumps with how far will Illinois push this to try to get a decision in their favor? Will it get pushed all the way up to the federal system? Because if it does, the ramifications of that decision won't just be against Illinois FOID cards, it will rain down much further. But hats off to that judge who realized that we can't charge somebody a permit slip or permission slip fee for a constitutional right. And again, it totally flies in the face of the text, history, and tradition test under Bruin. So yeah, that's a big one. Let's see who we have on tonight. I see we've got Mel's wandered on in the chat. Yeah, some of it is tracking, but the thing is, you have to have the FOID before you can even go purchase. You have to apply for it, and then you can go purchase. And I've looked at it. I found that I could actually apply from out of state, but as a non-resident, to get a permission slip to have a firearm in their state. Quite frankly, I just won't go anywhere near their state and won't spend any of my money in their state. That's easy enough. See, I've come to that conclusion about that whole FAFO scale. There's plenty of places I like to visit in this country. I bounce all over the country. Delta and I get along really, really well. They've never landed one of my flights on the roof, so that's a good thing. Although I will say, if you haven't seen the fiasco up at Toronto recently, that one was yesterday. I'm just glad nobody lost their life in that mess because they've had a few people injured, a couple critically, but so far, at least from last I've heard, no one lost their life. Um, yeah, I've not seen a plane in that position in a while. That's not a good thing. But on the other side of the coin, I guess this is, the captain must have gotten the wrong message when the flight attendant said that, she wanted to be on top for a change. Well, guess what? The captain apparently put it on top. So let's see, what else do we have going on in the court system? This one comes to us from Maine, the great state of Maine. Now, in Maine, this is an injunction that a federal judge has issued suspending a law on the 3-day waiting period. The state of Maine had passed a 3-day waiting period where basically you go in, you go through your purchase, go through your NICS background check, your 4473, all that good stuff. You pay for the gun, and they hang on to it for 3 days, and you don't get to take it home for 3 days. Now, waiting periods like this, 3 days is not the most arduous. I've seen 10, I've seen 14-day waiting periods. To me, they make no sense. The reason is, if the waiting period is there and everybody knows about the waiting period, if they're planning on doing something really bad, oh, let's say I'm going to go heist the liquor store on Friday. Darn, I better make sure I do my permit to purchase and everything else on Monday so that way I can pick it up Thursday night. Now, Maine's argument is, oh, it's public safety. It's going to help everything. And they've actually argued that it would have stopped 12 out of 156 self-deletions in the year 2020. That out of 156 self-deletions in Maine in 2022, that 12 of them purchased within that 3-day period. The others had before whatever else. Now, I guess that's a noble goal, but just because you're going to delay something 3 days, if somebody's at the point they're going to do that, maybe, some of the 12 would have rethought it. But at 12 out of 156 is less than 10%. Maybe doing something, so 156 of your citizens don't want to revoke their own birth certificate, Maine. I don't know. Maybe, more cool ranges, do something else. I don't get it. Maybe make, better mental health available, something like that. But to pass a law to affect the entire state arbitrarily because of 12 people, yeah, didn't seem like it made a lot of sense to me. Well, apparently the federal judge who looked at it said, yeah, he's enjoined the law. Basically means he's going to be stopped from being enforced as this thing works through the court. Now, the status of the requirements to get an injunction is that you seem to have a pretty good chance to succeed on the merits and that, you've got a valid case. Well, guess what? If a federal judge puts this injunction in, it's looking fairly good for the home team. And again, depends on how far they go with this. It's currently in a federal court in Maine. If this gets fought and pushed and pushed and pushed all the way up to SCOTUS, that again could have a ruling that comes down, not only affecting Maine, but would implicate up to 10 other jurisdictions, 9 states and the District of Columbia. So from that standpoint, yeah, I don't know how far they're going to push this. But again, it's a win. The judge in his decision said the waiting period is indiscriminate. It's arbitrary. Who came up with the fact that it should be 3 days or 1 day or 4 hours or 3 weeks? It's an arbitrarily imposed burden. And they said that, yes, a right delayed is a right abridged. But what about those 12 people? They can focus on 12 people. But number one, especially in Maine, one of the arguments they made was, sometimes stores are a long distance away. you've now got to make an additional trip, additional time, additional expense. All you're trying to do is put roadblocks in to make it harder and harder and harder for someone to exercise a constitutional right. Again, let's look and compare it to voting. If you wanted to vote on Tuesday, they haven't said, oh, you've got to come in on Tuesday and vote and come back in on Friday and confirm your vote. No. People complain about going to the polling place once. Oh, I don't have time to get off from work to do it. Oh, we need mail-in voting. Well, if you want to do that, can I do mail-in 4473s and just have them UPS it to the house? It'd be kind of fun. And then again, I usually buy more stuff when I'm there, so it wouldn't be the greatest for the stores. But yeah, so Maine, we've got the federal injunction on their 3-day waiting period, and that may end up getting worked all the way up to SCOTUS and implicating other states with waiting periods. You know, some of the anti-gun states are not really going to be happy with either Maine, Chicago, Colorado, because all these are is just the next test case ready to go up the channel. So there's some of the interesting legal news that's come out. And again, 2 big wins. One out of Chicago, which I didn't expect. That FOID card has been around since '67. Well, guess what? It may be getting damaged because the state court's already said no. And if it goes any further, it may. You know, that's the question. Do we want to take it any further? Do we want to risk other states losing some of their restrictions because it comes in as a blanket sweep out of SCOTUS? And hopefully, we can continue some of these wins. Speaking of big wins, this is one, and this is a good guy with a gun call, and this comes to us from Kentucky, the bluegrass state. 2 people, a 44-year-old and a 51-year-old, broke into a house in Manchester, Kentucky on the morning of the 15th. Kentucky State Police stated a minor defended their home in Manchester. They were called to the residence at 4:25 in the morning for the report of a shooting. 2 people, 44 years of age, I'm not going to even name their names because they're not worth knowing their names, broke into the house and tried to steal guns from inside the home gun safe. A minor who lives in the house saw them holding guns and shot them in self-defense, then escaped out a bedroom window. First responders transported one to the hospital where he later died, and one of them died on the scene. So here we have a teenager who not only went after 2 adults, went after 2 armed adults, and had the presence of mind to not only engage with them, but then get out of there. Well done. And scored good hits on both of them, apparently, because managed to revoke both of their birth certificates. Now, I'm never happy to see someone pass away, never happy to see someone die, but on the other side of the coin, you break into someone's house to break into their gun safe to steal guns. Chances are you're not just trying to make a little side money from your regular job of dealing Girl Scout cookies during the day. These sound like some real bad dudes. Armed break into a house to steal more guns? Yeah, these are problem children. And Kentucky now has 2 less of them thanks to a teenager who knew what they were doing. A good guy with a gun. What else do we have? Well, as we start looking at some of the defensive gun uses around the country, we notice a pattern. We are seeing more and more people standing up for themselves, their family, their own safety, because they realize that, guess what? It's up to them. I support the boys in blue and 911 and everything else all the time. The problem is the boys in blue, or girls in blue, can't get there in time. What's the old saying? When seconds count, police are minutes away. It's the truth. They're trained, they're armed, citizens taking care of themselves. We've got this one from the 10th of February. Downtown Pensacola hotel employee shoots and wounds a man during an argument. Incident occurred at Holiday Inn Express near Maine and Jefferson Streets. According to the police spokesman, a male approached a female in the laundry room of a hotel. An argument began, and the woman, fearing for her safety, shot the man in the leg. The man suffered injuries that are non-life threatening, good, and no charges are being filed against the woman. Now, you think some of these hotel laundry rooms, that's a pretty isolated area. If you've got those machines running, chances are not going to be able to hear much screaming or calling for help. So what happens? She defended herself. Hey, more power to you, dear. Again, another one. This one's February 9th. Man shot and killed after breaking into his ex-girlfriend's house. And this one comes to us from Texas. And we have to sort of laugh for a minute because, Texas. Yeah, you break into your ex's house in Fort Worth, Texas, might not work out really well for you. An unidentified person who was with the victim at the time defended her with a handgun. Let's see here. They put it back behind a paywall, unfortunately. Let's see. They don't even want us to see that. We know it was in Fort Worth, Texas, and again, man shot and killed, breaks into his ex-girlfriend's house. When she says enough was enough, yeah, maybe you don't go break into your ex's house. And here again, we have someone defending their own home, their own castle, their own well-being, because sometimes it's just not time to call 911. Let's see. What else do we have? February 5th, Houston, Texas. A barbershop owner fatally shot an armed robber who entered the business and demanded at gunpoint that employees and customers hand over their wallets. Yeah, the owner allegedly retrieved his gun while the robber was distracted with pistol whipping a man who didn't comply quickly enough. So not only does he wave a gun around, he starts pistol whipping someone because they don't comply quickly enough, and then zip tying the female owner's counterpart. Well, guess what? The owner was able to retrieve his gun and fatally shoots the armed robber. F.A. F.O. Got another one here. February 4th. Police in Texarkana, Arkansas say an armed teenager's attempt to forcibly steal a plane, not a plane, from a local airport was thwarted by a pilot who grabbed his own gun, confronted the team, and disarmed him at gunpoint. Now, again, fortunately, the young man was disarmed. He didn't lose his life. But a teenager decides he's going to go steal a plane from the local airport. This is brazen. This is clearly over the top. And what do we know? It cannot be allowed to keep going on. So, again, we have this one here, straight out of Texarkana, Arkansas. And in Goldsboro, North Carolina, a homeowner on the 2nd of this month shot and injured an intruder who broke into the home with intent to terrorize. The suspect is currently in critical condition, but no one inside the home was injured. Again, isn't that the whole castle situation? Yeah. Police get called because the homeowner defended themselves. Could they have just called 911? Yes. Would they have gotten there in time? Who knows? So yeah, Goldsboro homeowner shot a man who attempted to break into their home. While investigating, the police man went to the hospital with apparent gunshot wounds. It was determined that the subject was shot during an incident on West Oak Street. Investigators determined the shooting victim was suspected of breaking and entering to terrorize a home at that address. Well, I guess he got terrorized, but yeah. Okay, great question, Mel. Lethal force for the protection of property. Not usually lethal force for the protection of property. However, the robber was armed, so that changes it. That's pretty much where they're going to go with that one. Once it's armed robbery, you're using lethal force not to protect the property. You're using lethal force to stop them from using deadly force on you. If he had just walked over and taken the plane, probably not been able to. Yeah, yeah. If they've got the gun pointed at the good guy and saying, give me your keys or else, you can't say, well, you should have just given him the keys and he wouldn't have done anything. You bring a great question. There have been plenty of times where somebody has complied with everything and still gotten shot, so they don't leave a witness. So once the idiot comes up, whether he's saying, give me your money, give me your wallet, you know, give me your mini during the incident. And apparently, at least one of the victims and the suspect were acquaintances. Get some better acquaintances, bro. Not the kind that are going to come over and try to rob you. But yeah, the question on that plane, and that plane one is kind of weird. If you think about it, how do you steal a plane? I mean, I guess if you have a little bit of knowledge of how to fly one, it might help. But you figure chances are someone who knows enough to be able to fly a plane isn't the kind of person you'd think would be holding armed robbery jobs. But definitely a weird situation. And there was one I saw at the end of last month that was really interesting in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Um, Remember Albuquerque, New Mexico? That's where a while back they tried to like suspend everybody's concealed carry rights. No guns allowed in Albuquerque, even if you had a permit. They were going to do all this stuff up in Bernalillo County. The governor was basically suspending the Second Amendment as a public health issue. Yeah. And Albuquerque, New Mexico, man fatally shot one of two teens that tried to rob him and his wife at gunpoint as they sat in the car outside the apartment complex. Police arrested and charged 7 teens in connection with a gang robbery. 7 teens. 2 of them were armed, at least. What are we looking at here? Remember, the governor, I think it was Brewer, was talking about how, we're going to just make no guns in the city and that'll work. And we all said, that'll affect the law abiding citizens. It will not affect the bad guys. You're making the city a free fire zone. Well, turns out we had a 14-year-old who was shot and killed. He and a friend tried to rob a woman and shot her at an apartment complex. A woman's husband shot back, killing him, as being investigated as justifiable. He was with a group of teens who were in a white vehicle approaching the couple in a blue Jeep. The victims said they approached on the passenger side window with 2 guns. Another teen opened the rear passenger door with a gun. That's when they heard gunshots, and the husband shot back multiple times. A female teen entered the Jeep and began to fight with the husband. He then put the Jeep in reverse and hit the white vehicle. The couple later arrived at the hospital after realizing the female had been shot. The woman had been shot. The teens put their wounded buddy into their vehicle and drove to a nearby residence for gas money. Yeah. APD said they went to the hospital after being grazed, taken into custody for charges, also had outstanding felony warrants. Looking at these ages 16, 14, 12, 17, 15, 13, all charged in connection with this robbery. Yeah. But he's just a baby. He's just a sweet little baby. Yeah. 12-year-old, 17-year-old. And they named him in the article here. And I'm fine naming and shaming them. Oh, well, they're under 18. Yeah, here's their name. Here's their picture. Put their mugshot out. They're committing armed robberies. They want to play big boy games. I think they need a big boy FO. So, yeah, there's our latest and greatest stories of good guys and gals with guns protecting themselves, protecting their friends and family. Because you know what? You got to do what you got to do. And we always, I'm all for calling the police, but I also know that we can't necessarily get it done in time. So they can't always be there in time. They would love to, trust me. I work with some of these guys and gals, and I know them. And it's not that they don't want to get in the middle of it. A lot of them do. They want to be there for people. The problem is between defund and good people getting out of law enforcement, which we've lost a lot of good officers, they're literally at the point right now, they're hanging on. They're hanging on by a thread. And so from that standpoint, they're having to do what they can, and people are having to take care of themselves. Alrighty. What have you got? Any interesting stories y'all have you'd like to throw out there? I'm always up for that. If you have any more interesting stories, it's been kind of quiet. I know I haven't been around much recently. I am actually working on a fairly large story for that will happen last week, and trying to put together some information on that. Not sure when it's going to go. I may well have to do that as a pre-recorded stream, given the nature of it, because it may be a little bit spicy, or perhaps I may just do it over here in Rumble World and just work from it that way. But any ideas, thoughts, observations that y'all have, please feel free to throw them out there. Let's see. What are the parents doing, and why aren't the well, I can say this. We have disincentivized parenting. We have gotten to the point, and it's sad to say it, and I hate it, but we have literally gotten to the point, parents, a lot of them are giving up. They really have. They can't do it anymore. They're, with the economy the way it is, a lot of times the parents are doing everything they can to try to keep a roof over the kid's head and keep the kid fed. And, it's not been, working out real well for the home team. And when I say the home team, I'm talking like normal home life, like the rest of us would consider. So what's happening? Well, the 12-year-old is hanging out with their 14, 15, 17 brother. And before you know it, they're all deciding to go, see what they can do, or see what they can, rip off, or what, they can do. And it's not working well. And we're seeing it all over the place. I'm hoping with the new administration, we'll be able to get at least a little bit better economic growth, and maybe get a little bit of relief for some of the parents, because they're doing the best they can, but it's been a rough time. Let's see, I'm trying to find a certain clip here. One of my favorite clips. We've got our one of my favorites here, JD. If you haven't found out, JD Vance is a little bit of a troll. And, here he was back during the debate series. If you remember when we saw the Democratic VP candidate, Tim, whatever his name is, trying to load a shotgun. Well, here's JD.
Hey, guys. JD Vance here, playing a little buck hunter before a rally in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, also known as the closest Tim Walz has ever gotten to real combat. Have fun out there.
Yeah, I thought that was nice. JD has been trolling everyone in Europe, so kind of nice to know he is one of our trolls. And of course, we have our dear friend Michael Cargill with a little bit of advice on firearms.
Did you know a gun will not fire unless you pull the trigger? We conducted an in-house study with 3 different firearms to prove this claim. And here are the results.
Fire! Fire! Fire!
So having seen the results of our study, we have a simple question. And you can answer in the comment section down below. A gun will not fire unless A, it decides to do so using free will, or B, a human pulls the trigger. As always, more guns equals less crime. Go out there and buy yourself a gun.
Sorry about that. I had it clipped out on the mute. That was Michael Cargill of Cargill v. Garland. That was a win on the Supreme Court level. We've had a lot of wins in a lot of courts recently. Unfortunately, we've got this law that's going through in Colorado, looking at as they compare final drafts and everything else to see what it's actually going to be when it gets signed by the governor, if it gets signed. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that we'll see how it plays out. I think it's the type of thing that is so over the top that it will never, never, never actually pass Supreme Court scrutiny. So it's just going to be a speed bump on the way as we go through. But I'm going to cut us a little bit short tonight. I appreciate you all coming by. If you like what we do, go ahead, follow the channel, either on YouTube or on Rumble. Give us a thumbs up. Share the stream out to people. We're doing our best to try to put out good content here and keep you up to date on what's going on, all these different gun cases, and try to also, what's the implication for us? What's the big picture? Because again, a simple case out of Maine, if it goes far enough up the federal system, it could take out waiting periods in California. Yeah, and California might not even know it's happening on the other side of that coin. An FOID case, if it goes far enough up into the federal system, it could knock Maryland's ID card case out of the water. And this is going to be interesting to see because I think at the federal level, we've got some good judges, and I think we'll be getting a lot more. Beyond that, folks, be smart, be safe. Bye.